Big Ten Media Days, because that is now official. Nebraska will take 3 players out to Big Ten Media Days. Steve Sipple, Isaac Gifford, Ben Scott, and Ty Robinson will be the 3 players that will represent Nebraska at Big Ten Media Days.
Yeah, 2 defenders and an offensive player makes sense. The defense is the strength of the team. Those guys obviously are Gifford and Robinson are a huge part of that. Gifford led the team in tackles with 80 plus, and that he easily led the team in tackles. I love that they're taking Gifford. Gifford has, by the way, his brother Luke Sean is getting ready for his 6th NFL season. Luke plays for the Tennessee Titans. And he was on my show on the Ticket today saying that Isaac has a much harder edge than him. Isaac plays with a very hard edge, and he's become a very good leader. So Robinson critical on that defensive line, which is a strength with Nash Hutmacher and Jamari Butler, and others, but those are the 3 main guys. Robinson comes off a career best year alongside Nash, who also had a career best year. And Ben Scott is just a steady center, just what you want. You don't have any problems with it. Do you remember any problems that Ben caused last year at all? None. I mean, that's what you want at that position.
And I think it was a really tough year because there's a lot of deserving players they could have brought.
Oh, sure.
Nash Hutmacher, Tommy Hill, Bryce Benhart, Teddy Prohaska.
Mm-hmm.
So for Matt Rule, I'm sure he really wrestled with who are the guys to bring this year, because this is a team that's extremely young, but that core group of like 15 or 20 veterans played a lot of football.
It's an interesting
Jamari
dynamic.
Butler too. I forgot to mention him.
Yeah, Jamari Butler definitely could have been a guy that went to this event. Now, you say that it's interesting when we say it's a young team. It kind of is, but they got a lot of veterans in the lineup. So the dynamic is good. It's an interesting dynamic on this team, because I don't know how many freshmen and redshirt freshmen are there on the team, Sean?
I think is it 78 or 80?
It's a huge number.
It's like close to 80.
Right. And but if you look at the starting lineups, it's veteran laden. So I think it's a good scenario for Matt Rule, because a lot of that young talent, and there is young talent, can learn from these veteran players. Ty Robinson could have moved on. He's a graduate. Ty Robinson's a graduate. I think Gifford might be. I would think Gifford might be. I don't know about Ben Scott, but Robinson graduated.
Yeah, this is Ben Scott's 6th year.
Okay.
And this is one area where NIL is a real advantage, because if you could get $200,000-$300,000 or more to come back and play one more year, that's more money than you're going to make on an NFL practice squad.
There you go.
And so that, to me, that's where like a guy like Garrett Nelson, I always thought made a mistake not coming back. For it would have been his 5th year, wasn't a 6th year. Because Garrett Nelson would have at least gotten that type of money to come back, more money than no money.
Didn't make a practice squad.
So, and he would have been a guy, but he left so abruptly on the coaching change, where to get all these guys, but even to get Bullock back. I mean, John Bullock wasn't a slam dunk.
No, it wasn't a slam dunk. And he's critical. He's a starter, probably. I mean, he's a probable starter.
Another one that left, I was surprised a year ago, was Colton Feast.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have helped them at least.
He had a good job lined up, and it might have been that.
And I think he knew what his body was capable of.
Right. Some of the guys are played out from a body standpoint. They're just they're kind of wrecked, some of them.
It's a lot of weight.
Yeah. Oh God.
To put on your body. I mean, he had to probably fight to put on 40 or 50 pounds in his career.
Yeah. I'm not saying that Colton was wrecked physically. I don't know that he was, but some of them are.
It's freaky when you see, like, I'll give you an example. Ty Steinkühler. When you see him now, like, he looks skinny.
Interesting. He was a brute. Yeah.
I mean, it tells you how hard these guys have to train and eat to get to that, to get up to their battle weight.
Yeah, it's football's. I was talking to Gifford today, and he said something really interesting. Football is difficult from that standpoint, but it's just difficult from a lot of standpoints. Mental standpoint. He said every year, this time of year, he feels anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety because camp's coming. They're 2 weeks out of camp. I think that we, as media and fans, we got to understand that. Coaches feel that too this time of year, Sean. This is it, baby. I mean, it's coming. This is their time. And there's a lot that goes into it, as you know. And I think that's why we enjoy covering. That's why I enjoy covering football so much, because the challenge is so enormous, and it's fairly complex. And these guys are elite. I mean, we're talking about elite dudes. When you're talking about Tommy Hills and Marquise Bufords, Ty Robinsons and Giffords, they're elite dudes. I mean, it's because they're playing a really, really demanding sport at a high level.
Well, and they're in a league now that's so difficult. I mean, just to even make second team all conference,
right?
You've got to be a dude now. I mean, I think we took some of that stuff for granted in the Big 12 and Big 8 days. But now when you're in this 18-team super conference, just to even be recognized as the top in the league is hard.
Yeah, if you're a first-team All Big Ten player,
you're All-American.
You're knocking on the door of All-American, or you're just a flat-out All-American for sure. Yeah.
And it's going to be hard. I mean, Nebraska in this league, and that's where you hope 1890 and these NIL things they're pushing forward will help them down the road. But, man, we can't say it enough. They got to win.
I know they do.
We can talk and sell and BS, but winning matters.
It does. To me, that's a very interesting conversation, because we're not, in saying that, you are not putting pressure on Matt Rule from a employment standpoint, but it's not just at Nebraska. It's all over. It seems like winning for new coaches, winning quickly matters more than it ever has. And that's certainly the case here. I mean, he's only in his second year, and we're saying, you got to win. You got to win.
Just think about, the short rope. I mean, Billy Napier at Florida.
He's 2 years in.
They want him out.
He's sub 500. Now I think he's 2 games under.
Mike Norvell is the perfect example of they let him kind of build his way. And now look at Florida State.
Good point, because he struggled early.
Yeah, he took some lumps the first couple of years. They didn't go to a bowl, I don't know.
No, he took some lumps for sure. Napier is 2 games under. Cristobal is a game under 500 after 2 years.
Cristobal, with what he's getting paid, and then just
10 years, 80 million is what he's
getting.
And
the ridiculous NIL he has.
Yeah, he's 10 years, 80 million, and he's a game under 500. I think he's a game under 500 through 2 years. Napier's a game under, or 2 games under 500, I'm pretty sure. And I've never seen in college football a schedule tougher than Florida's in my life. I've never seen it. If you would be astounded if you go through what Florida. In fact, they have not only the hardest schedule I've seen this year, 2025 too. There's no way. I would say this: if I was the AD at Florida, if he gets 6 wins out of that, I'm keeping him.
Well, you know who the president there at Florida is? Ben Sass.
Ben Sass. Ben, if you're listening to me, you have a lot of influence. If Napier gets to 6, keep him, because it's a remarkable schedule. It's remarkable.
And Ben Sass understands football.
Okay, they're non-conference. Okay, you know that Florida plays in the SEC, right, Sean? They're non-conference. Miami, they start off with Miami. They play UCF and Florida State. That's their non-conference. And then their conference is an absolute bear of a SEC schedule.
Well, and speaking of schedules, did you see the SEC has kind of already begun dumping some of these non-conference series?
I saw that in your writing.
Big 10 programs. Georgia, UCLA, 25-26, not happening now.
What's not happening?
That series. Ole Miss, USC, 25-26, not happening. Florida, Cal, not happening, 26-27.
Because they're going to 9 games, right?
Auburn, UCLA, 27-28, not happening. So it makes you really wonder about Nebraska, Tennessee for 26-27. Will that happen?
So you're saying SEC's going to 9 games probably?
They'll go, yeah. The biggest piece still is they won't go to 9 now because ESPN won't pay them more. They're only going to add that extra conference game of inventory if they get incentivized for it. But ESPN has told them, the deal won't change if you add the 9th. So I get why they haven't done it yet, but it seems like it's inevitable, especially with the expanded playoff, that they'll go to 9 conference games. But, yeah, they're dumping inventory that would be split between the Big 10 and the SEC.
Okay.
They want their own inventory.
Yeah, of course they do.
Because, when you split a game like that, it's less money.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter anymore to play these non-conference games when you can get in the playoff. Like you
There's
can get
different. There's different. I mean, but you cover a head coach who doesn't want to play those.
I don't think very many coaches want to anymore at all. I mean, these types of games on a 9-game conference schedule keep you from going to a bowl game.
But they don't keep you out of the playoff.
Well, I think when you can go 3 or 4 teams deep in the playoff, if you get to 10-2, you're in the playoffs.
So interesting dynamic.
You know, Bo Pelini had teams that went 10-2. They would have had a shot at playoffs back then.
Yeah, I was looking at Pelini. Well, I should clarify. A friend of mine was looking at Pelini's record. And me and you have talked about this. Pelini's problem was he was 3-13 against ranked teams. 3-13 against ranked teams.
Missouri was one of his. Missouri and Oklahoma State were probably his 2 best ranked wins.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But
and was Georgia ranked in the bowl game, the Gator Bowl?
Don't know that. Can't remember.
But Missouri for sure was ranked when they came to Lincoln, and Oklahoma State and Stillwater was ranked.
Those are good wins, but he didn't have enough of them.
No.